All right, welcome back. Hopefully your sensor is working great and you're getting a number around 140 something, 130, 140, 150. That means everything's great. If not, check some stuff. Well, first, look back at the book and check the wiring of the sensor to make sure it's in all the correct ports and that the positive and negatives are plugged in correctly. If it's still not working, your sensor may be burned out. It is easy to burn these out if they're plugged in backwards, and sometimes that happens. I can get you a new sensor. Um, if you can't get it working, that's okay. You can keep making progress in the programming and we'll just come back to it over time and get it fixed. But we can get the rest of the code in as we need to. All right, next thing we need to do now is we need to convert. So our temperature sensor, the manufacturer sent us what's called a data sheet, which is a bunch of information all about the sensor. And that data sheet tells us how to take the values we get from the sensor and convert them into temperatures. But first we need to get our sensor val, our 0 to 1023 number, into a 5 volt voltage range. To that we got to do some math. So we're going to just go, let's see. We're going to take the number in sensor val. So I'm actually copy and paste it so I don't make typos in it. Sensor val. We are going to multiply that. So I'm going to put we're not going to multiply that. We are going to divide that by 1023.0, which is the highest number in our range. And we put a 0.0 here because we're going to be using decimals. So we want to show the Arduino that we're using decimals and not integers. And then we need to multiply that. So times 5 for the 5 volt part. So basically this division here will give us the percent of how far we are on the scale. If this number is 1023 over here, if the sensor val is 1023, we're at 100% 5 volts. So times 5. If this is 512, about halfway, this fraction here will turn to be 0.5, and 0.5 times 5 is 2.5. If the sensor val is 0, 0 divided by 1023 is 0, times 5 is 0 volts. So this is calculating the voltage from these analog read values. Now again, if we leave it like this, the Arduino will do the math for us and then completely forget this. So we need to put a variable in the front, and we're going to call this the voltage equal space. At the end of this line, make sure you get in your semicolon. So again, equals does not mean equals, even in a math equation like this. It means do whatever is on the right and put that number in the variable on the left. So we need to go make this variable real quick. So I'm going to come back up here under sensor val, hit enter. And my first instinct is to do int. But that's going to make an integer. And an integer means a whole number, no decimals. But clearly we're going to have decimals because we're dividing here. So instead of int, we got to use a different data type called float. Float is for decimals. So float allows numbers to be decimal numbers. And then we just need to tell it what the name is. And we called it voltage down here. Again, we could have called this anything we wanted. Arduino doesn't understand what voltage means. We could have called this, blue tangerine. It just wouldn't be very helpful. All right. See, so I mistyped it. That's going to throw me an error. Well, maybe I'll show you the error it throws. So let's put the comment in here. So this calculates, let's do converts the analog read values to voltage values. Okay. And then stores it in the variable called voltage. And then stores it in the variable called voltage. Okay, that sounds great so far. We have, let's see, what else? That's it. Now we gotta see if this actually worked, if we're getting real voltage numbers. If we are, the numbers shouldn't be between 0 and 1023. They should be between 0 and 5 if this worked. But to see if it worked, we've got to do a serial print. So I'm going to come up here and grab this, click on line 24 here, Control C, go down below this on 27 and Control V. And now instead of printing sensor val though, I want to print whatever's in the variable called voltage. Control C, Control V. And all right, so that will print the thing in voltage. And before I move on, I'm actually going to do something a little interesting. Now that I have two different values, on my screen, I'm going to be printing this number and this number. They're going to be really hard to tell the difference between them. They're going to be all smooshed together. So what I'm going to do is click on line 24, Control C, Control V, V. Now I've got two serial prints here. The top serial print I'm going to erase the ln from. And inside here, instead of printing what's in the variable, I'm going to do quotation marks. Quotation marks and sval space equals space. What the quotation mark does, it tells Arduino, hey, that's not a variable, just print exactly what I've typed in there. So the first thing it will print on the screen is sval space equals space. Next to that, it will print sensor val, whatever number is inside the sensor val, so I'll print a number next. And then it'll go to a new line and do this one next. And we don't want that, so we're going to erase this ln here. We only want an ln at the very end. You'll see what it looks like when we get there. All right, same thing down here. We want to tell it what this is. So Control C, Control V, V. And we're going to do here quotation marks, VOL space equals space. I left an E in there. And on this one, this voltage is going to be smooshed up against the previous number. So we want to actually add a space in front of it. I'm going to add two spaces in front, just like that. So it's going to print the word sval, the number sensor val. Then it's going to print, because there's no ln yet, it's going to print this next one, which is space vol space equals. Then it would go to a new line. We don't want that either, so we're going to erase this new line. So it's going to print this after this number, and then it's going to print this number next. So you'll be able to see both of them on the screen at the same time. All right, let's pause the video here and see if this is working. Your value should now be between somewhere in 0 and 5. And when you hold down the sensor, they should change a little bit by a few decimal points. All right, welcome back. Hopefully everything's working. If not, problem solve it. Actually, let me show you. I'm going to show you an error that might throw. Yeah, that's it. So it says here voltage was not declared in the scope. This is a classic error for a misspell. So the voltage was misspelled somewhere. If I look here, it looked like spelled correctly, but if I come up here, oh, I misspelled it up here. Voltage, fix that. So if you see something that says not declared in the scope, it just means that it's been misspelled. Go figure out the mistake. If you get something that says expected semicolon, go find where that semicolon's missing. It should be just above where it showed the red line. All right, next. So now that we can use the manufacturer, we've got our sensor into the into voltage now. We've got our voltage numbers. We can use the manufacturer's equation. So this is straight from the manufacturer. And we're going to come here and just say, okay, we're going to do, the equation is voltage minus 0.5, and all of that is in parentheses, and then times 100, semicolon. Again, Arduino's stupid. It's going to do this math and then forget it instantly. So we've got to tell it where to put it. In this case, this is going to calculate the Celsius temperature. And they do that because the whole world uses Celsius instead of Fahrenheit. Well, the whole world except America and a few other small countries. Voltage minus 0.5 times 100. And now we can do this. Calculate this, uses the sensor voltage to calculate the Celsius, CELSIUS temp. Awesome. Now we've gotten this temp C thing, but we haven't actually made the variable for it. Again, these are going to be decimal points. So we're going to get like 73.5 degrees. So we want to make sure that we're using a float instead of an integer. So up here at the top, I'm going to click here and do a float and temp C semicolon. Again, I don't really have a starting value for it. I don't need to put one, so I won't. It'll just start at 0 if I don't tell it what to start at. All right, now we gotta see if this worked. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna just grab these two serial prints, Control C, come down here and Control V. All right, and here we're gonna, we're gonna be doing the temp C, so we're gonna change vol to temp C, and the voltage variable changes to temp C. Oh, I didn't change all this up here. I copy and pasted. So shoot. Prints the word inside the quotation marks on the monitor. I'm going to copy and paste that comment after I fix the error to these other two down here. Perfect. And this one should say temp C. Let's go back and fix all this. And this should say voltage. All right, so now we're ready to run it. Now here's a trick. We know these first two are working. So what we can do is click on 25 and 20, drag down to 27 so that 25 and 26 are highlighted. And we can do control, hold down control and hit the slash button once. That will comment them out, which means it makes them into comments and Arduino will skip them when they're doing the code. So we don't need to see these prints anymore, but we don't want to delete them because we may need them later. If something gets broken, we can use them later. So we're just going to comment them out so they're not in the way on the screen. This one as well, control slash, we'll do that. If I highlight them again like this and control slash again, it will uncomment them and bring them back to life. All right, so there's a quick way of being able to have code not run, but leave the code in your sketch. And now go ahead and run this and see if it's working. If it's not, we'll figure it out. Best of luck.